As someone that is known for helping others create their most deeply fulfilling life, I'll show you how to do the same. I'm Kim Shambaugh, a certified holistic nutritionist, intuitive, and Reiki practitioner. Welcome to the Never Settle Life podcast. Hello, my friend. Welcome to the show today. I have such a treat in store for you. Oh my goodness. This podcast that we recorded today feels like a soul quencher. It is a breath of fresh air. You will leave this podcast absolutely empowered and just on a whole new level. So I'm going to need you to listen to the whole thing, and especially at the end, it gets very juicy. Okay, so today's guest is Erin Telford. She is a new soul sister of mine. She's a kindred spirit, and if you like my stuff, you're really going to like Erin. So she is a breathwork facilitator and teacher trainer. She's also a conscious business mentor for healers and coaches, and she's an intuitive guide. So her career began 14 years ago as an acupuncturist and Chinese herbalist. She was also a Reiki Master. So she currently supports clients in connecting to their intuition and innate wisdom so they can find answers that already exist within themselves and in expanding their consciousness through deprogramming patterns, societal conditioning, getting rid of limiting beliefs, and beginning to heal core wounds. So her business mentorship supports healing professionals in liberating their true voices, expanding their impact, vision, abundance, and personal evolution. She has created breathwork experiences for free people, the Soul Cycle, Soul Legends Retreat in Goop Health, NYC, Wanderlust Festival, YPO, and she's been featured in Vogue, In Style, Shape Magazine, Nylon, and New York Magazine. When I say this lady knows her shit, she knows her shit. She's currently living in Joshua Tree and she's deeply enjoying her life. Please, without further ado, I'd like to introduce to you Erin Telford. What's up, you guys? Welcome. Welcome, Erin. Thank you so much for being on today.
Thank you for having me, Kim.
Yeah, we're gonna have so much fun. I'm like, you and I don't know how long you followed me, but I feel like I followed you on Instagram for quite a while. I've always vibed with the things that you share and the things that you say. And recently, you and I had a conversation in the DMs, which I'm surprised, honestly, that we haven't prior to that moment. Yeah. And I was just vibing with you and I was like, oh my gosh, I gotta have her on. This is going to be fun.
I can't remember when I started following you, but you have the best handle. Because it's so, I feel like one of my least favorite qualities is apathy and never settle life. I mean, it's like ideally, we all really appreciate the life that we've been given. And I can just feel that ignition of human spirit in you. And it's very captivating and very inspiring. So that's how you got me in whenever that happened. I don't know when it was, but that was the hook.
I love it. Oh my gosh. Yeah. And we all have our origin story as to, why we've chosen our business names or why we do what we do. And I want to get into your story. I truthfully, I know just enough about your background, and I kind of like it that way whenever guests come onto the podcast, because I can truly come on with curiosity and be like, tell me everything. So let's just start with your story. I know that you used to be a Chinese herbalist, an acupuncturist, and a Reiki master, but you have a different form of your profession now. So I'd love to know, first of all, how you got into those methodologies, a little bit about your story, and what caused the transition to with your profession.
Yeah. So before I went back to school for acupuncture, I was working at the Prada corporate showroom in Manhattan. And I had moved to New York because I had worked in fashion before. I'd done some streetwear boutique buying, long ago. I lived in Seattle and I love clothes, I love clothes. So I moved to New York and I was like, well, this is, a large part of my background. I want to pursue this and I want to live this dream. And so I got a couple great jobs, working at Prada corporate was a pretty big dream. It was kind of like a high bar for luxury fashion and I hated it.
Wow.
I hated it.
Was this like a literal Devil Wears Prada situation?
Kinda. Yeah, kinda. Kind of like yes, and in its own special flavor. I mean, I'm not going to get into any of the dirt of that, but I'll just say, suffice to say, it was not the dream that I thought it was. It was a bright and shiny object. It was glamorous, but not that glamorous. And I found myself dragging my ass to work and feeling anxious and getting sick a lot and being really fatigued and having a hard time sleeping. And I just thought, this is making me miserable. This is not a dream. This is not success, even though from the outside it looked that way. And so I took home I think it was Elle magazine one day from work, took it home on the subway and opened up to this article, and it was called Death by Stress. And it was another, Manhattan girl with a cool job who was absolutely miserable, probably autoimmune something, digestion something, insomnia something, anxiety something. And she went to an acupuncturist, and she was just floored by how good she felt, by how healthy and vital and alive she felt. And I was like, I need that. I'm curious about this. And something really lit me up and inspired me about it. And so I went on their website and I sent away for a catalog, and I was like, this is 2005. Yeah. So I'm flipping through the catalog, and I'm just like, every page, I'm just getting more and more excited and more inspired. And it was basically, like ancient solutions for modern problems. And I was like, I love that juxtaposition. I love the idea that we can take this like tried and true ancient medicine and apply it to our daily lives now, return to holiness, return to health. And so without ever having received acupuncture, not even one time, I applied. And I my timing, the synchronicity of like finding the article, getting the catalog, and then like the next cohort, the next, program was starting like a couple months later. So I got all my stuff in and quit the job and went back to school. Wow. And it was just like everything and anything that I'd ever wanted. It was when I was in high school and college, I was fucking off because I didn't want to be there. I was skipping school and drinking, smoking weed, getting attention and whatever. I was not a good student, but I was a straight A student in my master's degree.
Okay, isn't it funny how most creatives are that way though?
Yes. Yeah.
Like, I can so relate to that. I had good girl syndrome until about age 26, lots of religious background. So I didn't do the drinking and smoking, but yeah, I fucked off until my parents were like, hey, we're going to pay you for every A that you get. And I was like, oh, I'm a straight A student now.
Yeah. I skipped good girl. I haven't done a good girl phase in my life, but it's kind of like when it means something to you, you're going to do it.
Yeah.
Which I think is a common thread for both of us. If it matters, you're going to do it. You're going to put your all into it. It mattered to me.
I'd like to take a break from today's episode to ask you a question. Have you ever been just trying to figure out what in the world to do when it comes to your fitness and your nutrition, and you're desperately just searching the internet only to come up with just a bunch of conflicting information that confuses you even more? Or maybe you have your nutrition and your fitness down pat. You generally have your shit together most of the time, but as humans do, sometimes you just fall off a little bit. And you wish that there was a way to have a streamlined system or some sort of simple checklist that you could adhere to get you back on track. Well, that's exactly why I created the 30-Day Kickstart. So this program incorporates the 6 fundamental habits that I use in my personal life and in all of my one-on-one clients' lives. So those amazing transformations that you see on Instagram are attributed to mastering these 6 key habits. So in the 30-Day Kickstart, we focus on mastering these 6 habits, ideally putting them in practice every single day. Now, we're not looking for perfection here. We're looking to achieve them as often as possible. So here's what they are. It's nutrition, hydration, sleep, movement, personal growth, and reflection. So inside of this program, you get a private dashboard with a habit tracker for quick and easy access. You also get 33 days of access to the program, as well as access to the NSL group membership. And you guys, there's so many resources within this group membership, including my guided self-healing sessions that are centered around meditation, EFT tapping, guided breath work. as well as 34 plus hours of NSL masterclasses. So if you guys enjoy my solo podcasts where I'm teaching you, you're going to get a ton of resources just within the NSL group membership. And of course, you'll have access to the NSL 30-day Kickstart portal. So inside, you're going to have modules for each habit. So that way you know exactly what you're doing and how to do it with a strategic game plan. If you're looking for a program that's do it yourself, simple and easy with all the resources you need, check out the link for more.
So jumped in 4 years, super hard, had a giant loss in my family about halfway through. My little sister was murdered like halfway through school. And everyone was like, she's not going to finish. She's going to drop out. She can't do this. She's grieving. This is too much. And I just buckled down, I just went harder. And because it meant that much to me. And, sitting in class crying every day, still getting A's, still meaningful, still doing it. And then graduated, started my business, built my business, scrappy, terrified, total newbie, didn't know what to do, needed to just learn about marketing, learn about manifestation, learn about money wounds, learn about apps and Stripe and websites and copy and all the things. I loved it. It was really hard and I loved it. And then I grew successful. I started, really accumulating a really beautiful clientele. I felt so fulfilled, so satisfied, so in love with the medicine. But the part that I was always kind of like really focused on and that felt most like resonant for me was mental, emotional health. And so I just started seeing a lot of people that were coming in and I didn't know at the time, but kind of like those signs of adult developmental trauma that we all have, the self-worth and the insecurity. And now I'm on my second antidepressant and I'm still not happy and I'm choosing unhealthy relationships and I don't feel like I can be myself. I'm afraid to be seen, but I also feel like I'm too much. And I have all this self-doubt and I can't listen to myself and I don't know who I am and I don't know what I'm doing. And I started seeing more people that were kind of in that framework. And I could relate to that because I was still moving through a lot of that myself. And so there came a point where that was kind of, those were all the people that I was seeing. I had a handful of people that had some sleep stuff and digestive stuff. And I also saw a lot of unexplained infertility people and women that were doing IVF, kind of like later, late 30s, women who had been working in Manhattan, following their dreams, working on their careers, and then were having a hard time getting pregnant when they were ready. And let's see, okay, so fast forwarding a little bit, I went on a yoga retreat when I finally started to make enough money to pay off the debt that I'd accumulated investing in my business via credit cards. I booked a vacation, which was a yoga retreat in Nicaragua. And I went and we were going to do some breath work before dinner. And I just thought it would be, basic breath work, alternate nostril breathing, breath of fire, the normal stuff you do in yoga classes. And it turned out that it was the breath work that I now practice. And it just blew my mind. It just completely broke my heart wide open. It gave me this opportunity. I'd had so much rage and grief in my body. And I was still dealing with episodic depression that I've been dealing with since I was a teenager. And I had this way out. I'd always tried to quiet those emotions down because I didn't know how to get them out. And finally, it was like I opened up a giant portal to start releasing all this emotional pain that was in my body. And I thought, as we do when we discover something that blows our own mind, everyone needs to know about this. So immediately ran back to my room before dinner and booked a retreat with my now teacher and got in did the whole training and started offering this work. And it's been that ever since. And then I've been in business for 15 years. So there's always different iterations of how I evolve and what I want to offer. But that was the transition from fashion to acupuncture to breathwork.
Wow. That is so beautiful too. And I'm sure, it's stating the obvious with the acupuncture translating to the breath work and just the body and working with, all of those different constitutions and everything. But it's so funny how life will put us in the seat that we need to be in. And we're like, oh, I'm behind. Oh, I'm off track. And then we look back and it's like, no, it couldn't have happened any other way. It's
No.
perfect.
Yeah, and you can just connect the dots. And I think that is such a discouraging way to look at life. Like the idea that you wasted time. If you think you wasted time, you didn't collect anything, from your experience. Like if you didn't learn anything from all the time you spent doing that one thing, then you need to rewind and go back and check your work.
Yeah. I think so many of us just live in the future. It's what I call future tripping. It's just you're
Mhm.
constantly, not allowing the self to be here in the now and enjoy the things that you have, right? Like, so easy to get out of gratitude and be so worried about what's not happened yet, where we think we should be. And I feel like just in our society, social media, all of it, we're constantly distracted by those things. So going into that, I want to talk a little bit about shiny object syndrome because you mentioned
Yeah,
that, and it
I
sounds
love.
like you've had a lot of perspective on that. And I feel like,
Mm,
I mean, and I'll speak for myself, like this is something that I suffer from still right now.
okay.
And, women in their 20s and 30s, like I feel like I see this a lot, and we're so disillusioned to the shit that actually matters. So you having experienced so much, like what would you tell women in their 20s and 30s about this
I mean,
topic?
it's really interesting though, because it's like, and this is, I feel so, I never want to, I'm really resisting referring to my age too much. I don't like a lot of the narratives around midlife.
Sure.
And I feel like there's a lot of the women that are my age right now, we're really recreating what it means to be, air quotes, this age. And so, but I'm sitting in a different seat. Like I'm 50, and like that's a different seat than being in your
I didn't know
20s.
you're 50. I
Yeah,
thought
just
you were
turned
40.
50.
I thought you were 40.
Yeah, just turned
Yeah.
50 a couple months ago. And I mean, I'm always going to be, I'm always going to be a little mischievous creature, like no matter what, till the day I die. So I'm owning that, like I'm going to maintain that in my essence for sure. But if I think back to 20, I mean, one of the biggest lessons I've learned in my life is that we never know how many more days we have left, and when I was in my 20s, I thought I was immortal, it's like, maxed out, fuck around and find out energy, and that's appropriate for your 20s. You should be looking out at the world as your oyster. You should be looking to like a glorious future with no limits. Ideally, you should be like, the world is my canvas. I am young, vital, alive. I can do what I want. And so I would say you have to know yourself, because you don't want to follow someone else's path. You want to follow your path. You want to follow your inner wisdom, your inner guidance. You want to know what's meaningful to you, so you don't get distracted. I could say that one thing that I feel really proud of in my life is I've always made the choices I wanted to make for me. And so I think you can't do that unless you know what you value and where you want to go. And that's going to change, of course, from 20 to 30, that's going to change. From 30 to 40, that's going to change. But we're always ourself. It's like our essence, our soul, our spirit. We're always us, no matter what age we are. So the more we take time to tune in to ourselves and like, okay, well, that person has this really amazing life. It really looks good on paper. That looks like success, but is that success to me? Do I want a Porsche? Do I want to be a multimillionaire? Do I want that? Does it look good, or is it what I want? Do I want to be a mom? Do I not want to be a mom? Do I want to experience marriage? Do I not want to experience marriage? Like, what are my core values? How would I move in integrity with my own life? And if you're 20 and you're like, I just want to experience everything, then go do it. Go do it and see. And again, you're collecting data. What do I like? What do I not like? Am I a mountain girl? Am I an ocean girl? Am I disciplined? Does it feel really good for me to have like routine and ritual in my life? Or do I like being wild and free? Is there a deadline for that? Do I need education? What do I want to pursue? I think it's just like always coming back to yourself and being like, what is most important to me? And am I following my own small, still inner voice? And really, the more tuned into that you are, the more you can make profound, impactful decisions for your life that are going to feel fulfilling and satisfying, and not just like, oh, I guess I wasted time, because that's just sad. It's just, we only, I mean, I believe in multiple lifetimes, but like we only have one life in this body. I'm
Right.
only going to get a chance to be Erin this time around. And so I want to do Erin really well. I want to do her right.
Yeah, I love that. And I like what I'm hearing is just consistently asking yourself questions. And I think in my experience as somebody, that's experienced my 20s and I'm at where I'm at now, I'm like, oh my gosh, it makes no sense from my perspective to feel like you need to stay in one place, to feel like you need to do one thing or follow this rule book that has been handed to you, be it, just societal, whatever, or parents or what have you. It's like, okay, why not go out and figure out what you're like, figure out what your soul is calling you to? Because something that really jumped out at me about your story is that you're like, I was chasing these bright and shiny objects, but it was making you sick. And then you could feel how lit up your soul was when the nature of healing came into your bubble,
Yeah.
acupuncture, breath work. And I feel it is so important, to not only know thyself, but be able to listen and trust the intuition, which is an art, right?
It
And
is an art.
so I know that this is your jam. It's my jam. This is like the
Yes.
through line between you and I both is like, hey, let's remind you who the F you are and like
Yeah.
really get you lit up and tapping into that. So if somebody, let's say somebody's coming to you, Erin, and they're like, I don't even know who I am. I don't know what I want, first off, but how do I even
Mhm.
trust myself? How do I listen to my intuition? And how
Yeah.
do I know that it's not just my ego?
Yeah.
What would you
Yeah.
tell them?
I think I would say, I mean, there's two kind of ways you can do this. One is like, rather than focusing on what you do want, focusing on what you know you don't want and that you don't like and what doesn't sound good and interesting to you. Some people will get really jazzed on like climbing a corporate ladder, scaling, titles, salary, like the kind of external manifestations of success. Everyone's so different. So knowing what track you don't want to pursue and what seems totally uninteresting to you, that can be a really good starting point to kind of like trim the fat. So you're like, yeah, definitely not that, definitely not that, and definitely not that. And then it can kind of narrow down the field a little bit to, a smaller group of options. But then I think the other way is just noticing you do have to be somewhat connected to your body and your emotions, because you have to notice what makes you feel expansive and what makes you laugh, what makes you smile, what makes you feel energized, what makes you feel inspired. And I think that depending on, I mean, we all have to overcome programming and conditioning. Obviously, I think that's another point where you and I intersect. There's the things that we've been told are the pathway to joy and happiness. And sometimes the only way that you can understand that that's not the pathway to joy and happiness for everyone is to get there and realize it's not enough, or it's not giving you what you thought it was supposed to give you. So you do have to play around. You do have to live your life and collect information and understand when it's like time to stay a little bit longer and investigate and feel it out and muck around and like really get really involved in the experience, or if it's just not for you for the long term. Something can be a short term yes and a long term no. And, you might have to overcome the idea that you're like flaky if you change your mind. That can be something that people really struggle with. Like, well, I'm just supposed to pick something and stick with it. And like, if you want to, yeah. But if it's making you sick and miserable and exhausted and you're unfulfilled and unsatisfied, then no. But you have to understand those feelings in your body and those emotions in your heart to be able to read the information right and look through the right lens.
Yeah, that's so good and so true. And a question that I like to ask myself and that I like to ask my clients when they're going through that process is, how's that working for you? And
Ooh,
it brings that back to exactly what you were saying of like, is this creating constriction, this path that you're on? And something that I've really just kind of come to an understanding about, I would say in the last few years, is it's okay to change directions,
yeah,
and we don't have to sit in this guilt and shame of like, oh, but it was supposed to look this way, or it needs to turn out like that. Like it's okay to shift and not, it's so important to like not sit in the crap of making ourselves feel bad about it, right?
Yeah.
And I love the gentleness that you bring to honestly any conversation I've ever seen you talk about.
Thank you.
It's like something about the way that you share information is just like this permission slip to be like, hey, get out there, go do it. And it's not a big deal. Like if it doesn't work out the way that you thought, I think that that's something that I've really taken home from the things that you share. So thank you just for my own benefit.
I'm so glad. I mean, I think that's like you said it a couple minutes ago. Like I think one of our main jobs in this life is to figure out who we are and what we're about. And there's nothing's wrong with us. You know, we're not broken. We don't need to be fixed. Yeah, sure. We need healing and soothing, and we need to be able to like clean the dirty window of conditioning and programming and wounding and patterning and trauma and all of those things. But part of what we're here to do is find out who we are and what we love and what we like and live that life. And so any of these like strict parameters about what it looks like, you know, what it's supposed to look like is just a little bit ridiculous, honestly. It really is. Because there's so much to explore. There's so much to explore. And I would rather have someone be a little bit cavalier in their explorations. You know, sometimes we have to go extreme. We have to go like really ungrounded, really reckless, really wild before we rein it back in. But if that side of yourself needs to be discovered, if you need to try 50 things before you're like, oh, I actually like these 3 things the best, you know, like that's a path of discovery. It's not a path of mistakes.
It's so easy to compare our timelines to everybody else's. I think that that's the biggest hang up, you know, at least speaking for myself, of like, I love what you said about don't get distracted, stay focused. And in a world of distraction, you know, where information is just at our fingertips all the time, it's so easy to get trapped in what we think we should be doing, right?
Yeah.
That's powerful. Okay, so shift gears just a little.
Okay.
Tell us about
Okay.
all the things. Like if somebody has found us on YouTube or the podcast and they're like, okay, breathwork, cool, like you're just breathing. What's the big
Yeah.
deal?
Yeah. So, I mean, I am so indebted to this practice because it's changed my life so much. I mean, it's changed my freaking life. When I discovered Chinese medicine, I had all these, you know, different emotional and physical challenges. And I thought, oh, this is just normal. This is just what isn't this what everyone's like really bloated and kind of like anxious all the time and doesn't sleep that well. And I just thought that was like part of being human. And then I was like, oh, wait, no, these are symptoms of imbalances and things that need, you know, tonics. And anyway, okay. Same with breathwork. I was like, isn't this as good as it gets? I thought this was as good as it gets. I'm successful. I have, got a great business. I have an okay relationship with my parents. You know, I kind of brace myself a little bit to go, you know, for family time. I do have a lot of self-doubt and like quite a bit of anxiety. And I have these periodic, you know, episodes of depression, but I know what to do. I just self-isolate and I wait for them to end, you know, I'm fine. And then I discovered, oh, wow, so many of these relationship triggers are because I have unprocessed emotional pain. Oh, this depression is because I have unprocessed emotional pain. Oh, this anxiety, this self-doubt, this like relentless self-critical dialogue is because of the way that I learned to speak to myself and the way that I learned to protect myself and the way that I learned to adapt my personality to receive whatever love was on offer. You know, I realized that, I mean, yeah, it's normal. It's really normal to be sitting in all those spaces, but I didn't know it could be undone. So I'm going to say there's so many different types of breath work, and I haven't experienced you as a practitioner, so I feel like we kind of wield it in a similar way probably. But it is for me, and for a lot of people I know, it's been a way that we can open up the drain of all of the it's like
That's exactly the verbiage that I use. That's so funny.
Yeah. And just it's like if you were in a sinking canoe, you start bailing the water out so you can rise back up to the surface again. So it's like, opening up that drain. And because you're in your sympathetic nervous system and you're in your subconscious, it's a way different cry than like seeing like really sad commercial, or like watching a movie, or like talking about your breakup on the couch with your friend, or like, you know, crying at dinner over a bottle of wine. It's different because you're accessing this level of depth of these unprocessed emotions that are connected to the memories of experiences that were too much, too fast, too soon. I heard this other great, I can't remember the exact verbiage, from Kimberly Johnson the other day, or too long and not enough, which is a good one for those of us who have experienced neglect or isolation, or, you know, latchkey kids, parents that were just not around, parentified kids that maybe had to grow up too fast, too soon, be too responsible too early. And we're also kind of like neglected, but without a lot of guidance. So like little teeny grown-ups. So all of those, and again, like we don't have to actually feel, we don't have to remember the memories, but because it's encoded in our bodies, we just get to start draining out all that pain. And the more we drain out that pain, our triggers and our reactivity gets less sharp. We start to get more space between reaction and response. We feel safer and more comfortable in our bodies. We can be here more rather than disassociate or distract or overwork or overdo or overeat or overexercise, or any of the number of the ways we try to run ahead of the problem, you know, get ahead of the pain, you know, outrun the pain. And so we get more safe and secure being with ourselves, and that can be a really good way to get to know who you are and what you like. And then it's combined with the heart opening as well, because we feel that sense of love. Our heart can start to open to ourselves, and we can start to, especially if we're overgivers and we're used to pouring a lot of that love out, we can start to close the loop and bring it back to ourselves. And we can also begin to really connect to our intuition when we're dropped out of that mental framework and we're not using our logical or rational mind. We can get really clear intuitive information. We can get really clear creative ideas. It's an amazing place to develop more of like your clairs. I really like my clairvoyance only really comes in when I'm in breath work. I don't see visions except for when I'm in breath work. I'm more of like a clairsentient or claircognizant, like inner knowing in the heart person, but I'll hear messages and I'll be delivered visions in my breath work. So you can begin to like cultivate your intuitive strength in breath work as well. And then there's a whole lot of stuff that can happen when you're not holding that vault of unprocessed emotional material in your body. You become a changed person. I'm no longer a person that gets depressed. I'm just not. You know, I know that chapter is closed in my life because that pain was trying to come up, and I would just eat a lot of sugar, not answer the phone, watch a lot of TV, and wait for it to be over till it happened again, because I didn't have a way to move it.
Yeah.
And once I had a way to move it, it's like I like to say, this feels, I hesitate to say this because this feels cocky sometimes, and it's not 100% true, but I feel for the most part, I feel caught up to today's pain because it moves. Oh, okay. Very high.
I have never seen Zoom do that before, ever.
You haven't?
No.
That's why I keep you can turn it on or off, but I keep it on because that's like a God wink to me.
Yeah, that's literally what I was going to say.
Yeah. Exactly. God says, hell yes.
Yeah, that was really
Through
funny.
Zoom. Yeah. So there's an unlimited amount of healing that can happen through that. And also there's just on a real simple level, it's kind of like, I mean, you as an athlete, you know, when we cultivate the ability to have high sensation and go to our level of discomfort again and again and again, you take it off the mat and you take it into your life. Like with training, with breath work, with any of the modalities that you and I practice, when you take it off the mat, it's gold, because you put that into practice in your normal life and you're like, I can handle this. I can bring this up. I can be visible. I can start a podcast. I can say the thing. I can have a courageous conversation. We can take all the training comes forward in everyday life. And it's like, it works.
It's adapting like every facet of ourselves doing this sort of somatic work. Like it's wow. Oh my gosh, Erin. It was like you were telling my story because those are the literal same experiences I have had myself, down to the claircognizance and the clairsentience. Same.
Yes.
I get the clear, like I get to see things when I'm in that deep breath work. I mean, when you get to that non-ordinary state of consciousness, and like for me, it does not take long. And I think that that's true for most people. And I'm really curious. I have so many things I want to touch on with this because
Yes.
you said
Keep
so
going.
many beautiful things. You being a Reiki practitioner as well, and like speaking into that heart center. And as a whole, with the human biofield, this starts in the heart, right? And I speak about it because like not a lot of people know that that is our biggest part of our energetic field. Like that's the organ that's putting out the most of everything. And it's through that heart space and the ability to have it open that we can connect then from the gut and then up to the brain and get that clear cognizance and clear sentience. And like this is why I'm too obsessed with not only the nervous system, but the fascia system, because it's literally this electrical system that's sending in it's like airdropping in these messages. And I love what you're saying about like, we can take the self-actualization and the things that we're learning, whether it's through coaching or your own experience or whatever, and then you get to experience it in this abstract, like, way. And it's healing that it has no words, right?
Yeah.
Oh, it's so beautiful. It's so beautiful.
I have never heard anyone describe the heart field, gut, heart, brain access in that way. And what else did you just say? Oh, the fascia. And I don't even think I knew until maybe yesterday that you were yeah, you work with the fascia. And that's an area that I've just been getting into. Like that feels like a next stage for me, not as a practitioner, but that's the work that I've been doing with my own body and receiving that kind of care. And it's really wild because it's so, and I don't even know, I know just like I have a very basic understanding of it, but it's so clear how much that also holds and communicates and speaks to us. So that's been something I've been, yeah, receiving a lot more of myofascial release work. And yeah, it's a game changer.
It's
Also,
insane. Just like because the fascia system houses the nervous system and even
did not know that.
our fascia tissue, it's not just this like packaging around our organs and through our muscles. It's on a cellular level. So it's literally the thing that's communicating to our other cells as well. Like, and we're just now learning so much about fascia. And I think that in the decades to come, I just have this knowing that it's going to have everything to do with our biofield, with how we receive intuitive, downloads, and then how those messages are sent throughout the body to be processed. You get that feeling of somebody's following you. You get that intuitive hit to call somebody and they're like, "Oh my gosh, I was just thinking about you," right? Like we didn't just happen upon some of the herbs and like some of the things from way, way, way back when our ancestors just like this is how all this stuff came to be, right? And
Yes.
I think it's so important just in our modern world to be able to regulate our nervous system. And I think that there is a healthy amount of readiness that we need. It's like this balance of good stress and bad stress. And through my perspective is very unique because like most of the time with breathwork practitioners, they're coming from the yogi space. It's very relaxed. Everything needs to be soft. I am the total antithesis of that. So I'm like sitting there like, okay, God, why did you put me in this situation? Because I'm coming from the most hardcore space now into all of these somatic practices. And it's like, there has to be both. There has to be this marriage of being able to adapt, like when the nervous system is in that fight or flight or, the freeze and fawn, and being able to get back to center. Enough about
World.
my tangent, but like, I love everything you're saying.
It's gonna save the world though. And I love where you're going with the biofield and the fascia. And I'm just like, you're ringing a lot of internal bells for me about why we're connecting right now. And I just have to say, I really like you a lot. And I'm so glad that this was initiated. But there's this quote that I don't know if I don't think she's an official doctor, Irene Lyon. I don't think it's Dr. Irene Lyon. But she was quoting Dr. Peter Levine saying that we will only reach enlightenment as a human race when everyone can, paraphrasing, when everyone knows how to regulate their nervous system. And it's true. And I mean, I'm not even trying to get to enlightenment in this lifetime. Like wherever I go. But for all of us together, the one key thing that we have working against us right now is that, well, we have more than one thing working against us, but victim consciousness, like it's their fault. I have no accountability or responsibility for my own life. My life would be so much better if that person was doing this person was doing this other person wasn't doing this. But the us versus them, the perpetual good guys versus bad guys, and we have to be, you set yourself up to be activated by the world. This morning I woke up and I laugh at things like, okay, I don't doom scroll because why would you do that to yourself? This morning I was scrolling comedy clips and I'm like, oh, I should say something like comedy clip scrolling, like why wouldn't you want to laugh and laugh and laugh first thing in the morning? Like there's nothing bad about picking up your phone, but make sure it's something good. Inspiration, elevation, expansion, evolution. I am never going to doom scroll, but that's my choice. Just because everybody else is doing it doesn't mean that I have to. Anyway, okay, that was my little tangent. But when we have, obviously, you know this, I know this, when people have, again, like shaved off the sharp edges of their triggers because they have let the water of their tears run over the rock enough times so that they're not showing up jagged. You can have a conversation. You can listen to somebody. You have more spaciousness to take in an idea that's different than yours. You have more space to, rather than, defend, air quotes, educate, or try to convince someone of your way of thinking or your ideas about what the world should look like, you can just relate and you can just connect and you can just listen. And it doesn't have to be a big fight. It doesn't have to be a big deal about politics or tariffs or the president or the climate or whatever, pick your party. And that is going to change the whole world when we can be less reactive and more responsive. So, and we all have that, you can do breathwork for free. You can do breathwork for free all freaking day long. I'm sure you probably have a free guided one. I have a free guided one. They're all over YouTube. These tools are not, you don't have to pay someone $300 an hour to, figure out your nervous system. You could do it every day for free by yourself.
Oh my gosh, yes. Yes to all of this. I think that the biggest thing that I have come to understand, I would say in the past decade of my life, is that because I had to fuck around and find out. Like for me,
same.
And that's the healing journey, right? That is okay, I gotta go off on my own. I gotta burn the boats. I gotta figure this out and figure out what I want. And for me, it looked like hyper independence, really codependent. I needed all these things. I was told that I needed, to be a certain way and whatever. Became hyper independent. And then I was like, how's that working for me? Not so good. And it created a very much like us versus them mentality. And it was honestly like devastating when I had that veil like just taken off. And it's like, how's that working for you? And it's like, there's some things that I am not enjoying about myself right now. And then it comes back to interdependence. Like we have to be able to play well with each other. We have to be able to, at the least, like agree to disagree, but respect each other enough to allow, and it's almost like very hard to explain because it's like you have to just simply experience. I love what you said, the shaving off of the edges of the ego enough to be able to be like, yeah, that's not really that upsetting to me. Like I don't have anything to prove, and I can allow. That's very powerful, and 1,000% I agree with you. Like society needs, we need to come together, Beautiful. So beautiful. So
Yeah.
I want to know what advice you would have for someone that is struggling with stepping into their authenticity. Because you, my friend, embody this, I feel like, so well. And you're like, I know what works for me. I know what I want. and I'm doing it. So let's say somebody, it's like they're hearing all these things. It's like, okay, I need to figure out what's going to work for me and what I don't want as well. But there's still fear around owning it. Like, what would you
Yeah.
tell that person?
Is this person a business owner or is
I
this
could be.
because I feel like it depends, like being personally authentic is different than being like publicly authentic.
Yeah, that's,
And yeah, so I mean, there's a crossover. I mean, I teach more people about being themselves in public space as a leader and as, facilitator. So that's a little bit more of my area. But wow. All right, I'm like having a little pause here, so I know that there's something new that wants to come through to be said. I would I would tell them to ignore whatever kinds of shapes of authenticity you're seeing on your screen. And or again, this is like kind of like collecting the negative data points. Like I often tell people, like, authenticity does not mean being super loud and really opinionated and brash. Unless it does, unless that's who you are and how you want to come across, how it feels natural and organic for you to communicate. And I'll also say, like, authenticity doesn't look like filming yourself crying on a reel, unless it does. That might be your particular flavor. You're like, I'm really sensitive. I want to share this part of myself. I'm unembarrassed about it. It's not shameful for me. I want to demonstrate lack of shame and self-permissioning around being emotional in public. That might be authentic to you. I think we kind of have to experiment. It's almost like bumper cars. You might have to go a little bit in this direction and then a little bit in this direction. And you do have to know who you are and what you're here for. And I think it can be a little bit easier in a business structure, because if you're a business person, what I'm going to tell people is they have to find their core values. They have to understand what their core values are, so that when they're moving with authenticity, that's also moving with integrity. And authenticity to me is also being in alignment, your words matching your actions. So someone might look, I've had this experience, unfortunate experience of seeing people behind the scenes that present a certain way on social media and have a dumpster fire going on in their personal life. And they present the high highlight reel, like a very elevated highlight reel. And some people might say, well, my personal life is none of their business. Like, this is me as a professional. This is my medicine. These are my teachings. But I think that there's, for me, authenticity as a person who does facilitation work, or as a person who does guidance work or leadership work or coaching work, your ability to teach through your initiations is really important. And again, you have to be very intentional about what's for public and what's for private. But if you're moving through something that's going to elevate or expand your ability to hold space and your ability to lead and your ability to kind of come into a new chapter, a new iteration of your being, then I want to see a little bit of your process. Part of that feels authentic to me as well. Can I teach through the storm? And if you can't teach through the storm, lay down until you can get back up. But there is everyone's got their own brand of what feels authentic to them. And I feel like congruence between personal and professional life to a degree, and always moving from your core values, like knowing what you stand with, what you stand for, and why, and being willing to say what you mean and mean what you say.
Powerful. So powerful. And it's so true. Oh my gosh. I know I talked to you a little bit about this in our DMs. Something that I learned, though, personally, in being able to facilitate while going through something huge,
Yeah.
is just wait. Like, if you're not sure, just wait. And
Right.
I had to personally wait a very long time, because I felt, for everything that was actually happening, it felt very tender and very raw. And I was like, okay, I have this way of being to where I will not share something until I no longer feel raw about it.
Yes.
Because it's like this balance of, yes, I want to share it so I can help other people, or like whatever that looks like, sharing your process, showing people. Because I think, like, exactly to your point, it adds even more integrity to the facilitator, to the person. And at the same time, it's like if you have a wound and you reveal it too soon, if somebody pokes that wound or has something negative to say, like you can back yourself into a corner. And I think that that's where the self-actualization piece comes in immensely with this. Because like if you haven't gone deep enough to get to know yourself and do that work, like you may not know that, right?
Right. And then you're just spilling your whole psyche out on the internet. And
Yeah.
yeah, that's
Yeah.
a good way to learn how not to do that or when not to do that.
Yeah.
And I say the same thing too. You have to be able to, if you're going to teach through something, you have to get to the other side. You have to have enough ground under your feet to be able to talk about it. But I mean, I loved how you touched in. I was watching you and it was clear you were moving through something, even though you didn't say what it was. You alluded to it, you spoke into it, you touched on it. And because I've been in not your exact situation, but because I've been being in the middle of an initiation, like you could see, you could see, hear, feel, know that you were in a process. And so I love that you just gave us just enough to know, because for those of us that have gone through some life upending initiations that turned our whole worlds upside down, you can sense it in someone else. And I could just see how you were holding it in integrity. You were going to put it in the field without specifics. And you were going to you're also showing, and this is how I'm moving with it. So no one needs to know the gravity of it. They don't need to know the intensity, but they could go, okay, she's going through something hard right now. And she's showing us how she's moving with it. She's taking better care of herself. She's putting these practices into place. And like, that is leadership to me.
Thank you. That means a lot for you to reflect that back to me because I will be very honest in saying like it felt very messy. Like I would share things and I don't oh, highlight. I
Okay.
would another God wink. I would share things and then be like feel cringe about it. And I don't feel cringe about things, but it was just this like dance of kind of getting comfortable with the vulnerability again because of just the way it all was. And thank you for that. It's definitely a process, and it requires so much grace and gentleness just through and through when stuff happens.
And those times are tender too. And I think also, both of us have like relatively we have like similar sized platforms, and you get in relationship with people. And there are people that, know you because they've worked with you a lot. And there are other people that maybe don't know you as well. And sometimes I found like, when I had a fall 3 years ago and I had a brain injury and broke a bunch of bones, and it was a massive spiritual awakening for me, and a lot of life changes happened as a result of that. I found that people reacted to me in a way that was like really inappropriate, and that was upsetting. And so I had to kind of pull back a little bit because I wanted to share, but the way that people were like, for example, you as a Reiki practitioner as well, like a lot of people started sending me energy. And I was like, do not send me energy. Did you not get taught about consent by your teacher? Because you don't just like send energy to people. Like, because I know I would bet money that all these people sending me energy did not get into a grounded meditative state, clear their channel, get really highly intentional in what they were cultivating before they sent it. I would bet $1 million. None of those people did that. So I had to put boundaries in place. People want to tell me why that happened to me. People wanted to someone came into a breathwork group and they're like, I talked to your guides. And I was like, don't you ever
Oh,
talk to my
no.
guide. Again, who taught you? Who taught you that was okay? So there was a lot of energetic clutter, like a lot of boundary, like huge energetic boundary crossings. So there can be the people that support us that really get it and really, understand what we're sharing with them. And then there can be people who, who are not helpful in their
Yeah,
responses or reactions to your experience.
I experienced some of that too. And unfortunately, it was not loving intent that they were trying to send remotely. Like it was very
Ah,
much like more psychic attack stuff.
yeah, I got that too.
And I mean,
Yeah.
luckily my guides are very powerful and strong and very protective and like
Mhm.
I have something. I have some shield something. Like it's very
Yeah.
interesting. And so I don't get messed
Well,
with
you're a
often.
warrior though. Like
I,
I would imagine that, I mean, I'm watching you because you're a woman, but I watched you lift weights yesterday. We both hold a warrior archetype in our gentleness. In our gentleness, we absolutely do. And that gives you some automatic protection because it's not a joke. Try me.
oh, 1,000%. Like
Yeah.
in the midst of all of this and just asking for guidance, I would get these overwhelming visuals of just like massive protection, just
Yep.
intimidating. And I'm like, okay, we're good. Like, I really don't have anything to worry about. I'm
Nope.
so good. Yeah. I mean, and everybody has their own experiences with things like that. So,
Yeah, I think I mean, that's cultivated. I think we probably both came in with that for
yeah,
sure, but
I know I did.
it's a
Yeah,
cultivation as well. Yeah, we maintained it through the way we live, and that can make us less. I mean, there's a lot of stuff I just don't worry about because I'm like, not my monkeys, not my circus. It's
literally,
like,
literally.
yeah.
All right, Erin. Well, we're almost out of time. I want to ask one last question. What topic have we not discussed that you would like to touch on, that you would like to share about, that you feel people need to know?
Okay. I was sitting outside getting my grounding time with my feet on the earth and getting the sunset in my eyeballs last night. And I was thinking about what is most distressing to me at this point. It's going to be less a question and just a little bit of a mini
Yes.
tirade.
Yes.
But what's most distressing to me right now is the fatigue of the human spirit that I see out there in the world. And I don't know how to turn it on. I don't know how to turn it around. But I think the thing that's important for me to say and continue to say is that we all have a choice. This is your life. This is my life. This is our life. And just as you said, how's that working out for you? If something is not working out for you, and you continue to stay there. We got to stay where we need to stay for as long as we need to stay until it's time to go. But if you have been in a place, I think what I see, unfortunately, is some people staying too long in a place that is no longer working for them and they know it, but they choose to stay there because it's safer than the amount of energy and courage and risk that they're going to have to cultivate and call up within them to take accountability and responsibility for the life that's been given to them. And I cannot shout it from the rooftops enough. We are no matter what is going on with your body, with your health, with your relationships, with your energy, with your mental, emotional health, no matter what's been done to you or that you've experienced, this is our life. And it's so precious. It's like unrelentingly precious. Like I am starting to cry right now because it's so important to me. Our lives are so important. And there is no life that anyone has, that anyone's listening to right now, that is too tiny to be significant or impactful. We all have been given the right sized, the correct size curriculum for us. And if that just means that you have a knock it out of the park relationship with your cat or your dog or your horse, you don't have to impact hundreds of people or thousands of people. You don't have to do any of that. Be the best daughter, be the best mom, be the best husband, be the best son, be the best of you. Bring your full vitality in your life force and your heart forward in whatever way you can. Don't sleep on your life. We all have a perfect size contribution and impact to make. And for some people, it's going to be a small circle. And for others, it's going to be larger. But we all have a responsibility to show up. And we all have a responsibility to do what's ours to do. And I know that if we all play our role and play our part, the part that's been given to us, that's been assigned to us, that we chose before we got here, that this world will be a more dynamic and loving and supportive place. And I know we're already going there. We are already on the way. Whatever's rumbling under the surface, it's very subtle, it's very sophisticated. All the interlockings and the mycelial networks of all kinds and energetic contacts, it's all being rewired right now. We are on the way, but we have to participate. We have to contribute. And again, that might be, doesn't matter if you work at the Gap at the mall. It doesn't matter the packaging that you're in. It matters the energy that you bring forward into the world. And just make it good. Make it something that you feel proud of.
Mm. Oh my gosh, that was medicine. And wow, how true. You guys replay that as many times as you need to. Go for a walk, soak that in, and take it to heart. Don't just listen to it and let it hit your soul. Like, do something with it.
Do something with it. Yeah. Whatever. Make some cookies, give them to your neighbor. It's nothing is too small. I think that's really important. Nothing is insignificant. Nothing is.
Absolutely agree.
Yeah.
Erin, thank you so much for being here. This was a blast.
Thank you. I always want to say I could go for an extra half hour.
I know. We'll do it again for sure.
Yeah. Oh, thank you so much. Every single time I get on a podcast with someone, I'm always like kindred spirit. Like whenever we make a choice to get together and have a conversation, it's always because there's something that has connected us and synced us up. And then we get together and I'm like, yeah, I could talk to you all day. Like,
literally every
easy.
time.
Yeah.
Every time. Never fails.
Yeah. Yeah. So thank you for inviting me into your world. And you are really fucking cool. I like you. I really like you. So I'm psyched that we got connected.
Me too. You're really fucking cool too. And I'm obsessed. So yeah, just definite kindred spirits for sure.
Yeah, this is going to be a good one. I'm excited to release this.
I know, me too. Me too. Well, Erin, where can people find you? Is there any offerings that you have coming up that you feel like people should know about?
Yeah, I am. Well, it depends on when this comes out. Always, you can just check my website, erintelford.com, Erin Telford _ Instagram, and there's always something new. So just check the website and all the new stuff will be there.
Beautiful. Well, thanks for being on, and we'll see you guys soon.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much for joining me today on the Never Settle Life podcast. I would love to have your rating and review, so let me know how you liked it. If you liked this episode, please share it with a friend and someone that would really enjoy it as well. Let me know what you'd like to hear more of and send me a comment in my latest Instagram post at Never Settle Life on Instagram. Until next time, I'm Kim Shambaugh. I'll talk to you soon.
Being afraid of your own magnificence. And this is just not the time. This is not the time